All right. All right. So I'm continuing this. I'll try to. Wait, what the hell? What I'll do is I'll try to see if I could get a certain amount of time in this. Maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. I'll be surprised if I get more than an hour in here. I truly have to be on when no one is online within my building. Well, not really in my building, more like on my floor. So this is mainly just for me to evaluate this. I know it was. I don't believe I've played it before, but for some reason I thought I've played it before. If it was a different Sherlock Holmes game, but after playing this, I'm not sure that I ever played it before. I thought it was Crimes and Punishment, but now I think about it, I'm not sure if it was Crimes and Punishment. We'll see. I'll proceed forward. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? Alright, so I'm in Gravity Rush 2, and that's pretty long. I'm accomplishing some missions with regards to getting outfits and other things as well. And even the story is kind of longer than I expected, so I'm definitely going to finish that in June. But for this one, I think this might actually be finished sometime in July. The same month I'm going to probably start playing Doom Eternal. Yeah, I say that sounds about right. But who knows how long this game is. This game could be ridiculously long, which would then push back Doom Eternal to August. I'm not really trying to get into running and gunning anymore for quite some time. I already do that with other games, such as Warframe, Resident Evil. I'm taking a break from those type of games. Hell, even Gravity Rush 2 has certain type of fighting mechanics. Really want to get into the more psychological horror, or psychological investigation with regards to not necessarily crime, but just to solve things. I believe the whole crime and solving things go hand in hand, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to be. It's not really a trope, but it's more like an inconvenience when you want to think outside the box. So I'm gonna see what I need to do in this while I have the time to do so. So since the last video, what have I learned? Peter Carey is a sailor. You can say he's a sailor, even though he's a captain, but he's also a sailor. He probably sailed before he became a captain, because every man starts from someplace. So let's say he was a sailor. Let's say he rose through the ranks, and as a sailor, eventually he became a captain. Let's say the people on the boat were friends with him. Let's say he get along with a lot of them, except for maybe one or two falling out. Let's say that falling out person came back, killed him. At the beginning, I suspected the wife, still suspects the wife. But that's a lot of effort to go to kill a man, especially using a harpoon. Now, how would she get the strength to do that? She wouldn't. That's impossible. Can she hire someone to do it? Sure she can. But it's very unlikely someone who's that religious will hire someone to kill her husband unless her husband beat her a lot. A raging alcoholic, more than makes a lot of sense. But if he was the wife-beating type, she would have bruises on her face and on her hands or on her feet. So that's the case. He was probably more verbally brutal. No, this seems like someone came in here and did the crime himself. Now, if the crime was done by more than one person, I would say the second person was smart enough to erase his footprints, while the first person wasn't smart enough to erase his footprints. Or if both of them are fully aware of them stepping on the ground and it being footprints, then it was an intentional thing for two people, three, maybe even four, put their footprints here, which makes no sense. Why would one footprint show up if it was more than one person at the scene of the crime? And if more than one did show up, why did that person wasn't smart enough to get rid of his footprints on the ground? Maybe the other two were smart enough to walk on the tiles while his dumbass walked on the ground because he didn't care. Let's say if that is a scenario, that there are more than one person present. It would make sense how he would be able to be killed by more than one person. But that cup was for two people, which means the first guy that came in was a visitor of his, person that visited his. Say the person that visited him had no knowledge of the second person. Let's say the first person that came to visit was someone on his ship, someone he knew for quite some time. Let's say this someone is one of his personal friends, Peter Carey, or an associate of him. But that person was being tailed by someone else. That's the only logical thing that would make sense with regards to Peter Carey being able to be stabbed by the force of a harpoon. But if the second person followed the first person without their knowledge, why would he support that person from stabbing Peter Carey? So that theory goes out the window. No, it makes more sense if there was more than one person. That person would know the second person and they would be able to do so by killing Peter Carey. So even though Peter Carey would be expecting one person, that's the reason why he has only one glass for him and a glass for the other person. He wasn't expecting a third or a second, which makes more sense. However, I don't think that's the case, because if both of them came together and both of them left together, wouldn't be so stupid enough to leave his footprints here, and they would have to exit out of the place after killing him. So let's say they enter through here, but they exit this way. But the ground here is just as soft as the ground over there, so that doesn't make sense. So when they exit, and they exit this way because that's the way to leave, because that leads to the wall. So this is the entrance. They left and they exit by making sure they walked on the stones, but they weren't smart enough as they walked on the stones to realize that they left footprints here. That seems highly unlikely, which means if there was more than one person, or even if there was one person and the person exit out, they would saw this and they would cover it up. Which now makes me believe that the person that killed Peter Carey is not the same person that came to visit Peter Carey. And they intentionally left the footprints of the person that came to visit Peter Carey because it's a nice, clean little way of keeping themselves off the radar and keeping the person who walked in here on the radar. So that makes more sense. So in the case, we have a visitor and we have a killer. So I'm going to go with 3 people are present now. 1, the wife. 2, the visitor that came to drink with Peter Carey. And 3, the person or persons hiding in the shadows, waiting for her to leave, or him to leave, or them to leave, and then came in and did the killing by him or her or them. So them could be 2 people who did the visiting, or 3 people who did the visiting, or 1 person that did visiting and left, and the second them or him or her could be the person that did the killing and intentionally left that footprints there. So the force needed to kill Peter Carey had to be done by someone strong enough to kill someone as strong as Peter Carey, which is highly unlikely. That would be anyone that's frail or weak, and there would be a sign of struggle in here, but there are no signs of struggle. So Peter Carey didn't put up a resistance because the table's fine, everything's fine. So he was caught off guard by the person who did the stabbing unexpectedly, which means he didn't suspect or expect the person to kill him. So this is a person he's well aware of, and the game did tell us that he was dressed and seemed to be aware of the person that was here. So it couldn't have been someone he had animosity against. Otherwise, there would have been a struggle prior. No, this had to be a quick kill by someone who he didn't expect was going to kill him. But the person would have to have some type of strength, or he was caught off guard, and it's not required to have strength, but it is required to have force to shove it through him. So the person still has to have some type of strength, equally enough to impale him to a wall, to go straight through his body and impale him to a wall. That requires a lot of strength. So it has to be a big guy we're talking about here, or it has to be more than 2 people we're talking about here, or more than 1 person we're talking about here, which still doesn't make sense, because if it was more than 1 person, he would have had more than 1 cup, which means if there was a third, it was unexpected. And if it was unexpected, Peter Carey would see that third person coming, and there would be a struggle rather than a quick death. So I know there's probably like people online who have the theories that it is more than 1 person, but if there's more than 1 person in a fight or a conflict, it would be a struggle. And if there was more than one for Peter Carey and the other for his visitor, it was for 2 different visitors, 2 people he didn't expect, which means Peter Carey wasn't unable to make his 3rd drink, which is his drink. Well, let's look at the cup again.
Someone drank from this glass recently. Someone drank from this glass recently.
Now he's saying the same thing. Someone drank from this glass recently. There are 2 glasses. So he didn't say anything different from this one and this one. He's basically comparing both these to someone drinking from the glass. And he didn't say Peter Carey. But then again, fingerprints aren't part of this world. So he can't really say that this is Peter Carey and this is someone else. So he has to assume one of these is Peter Carey and the other one is someone else. But I'm going to go ahead and say it's not someone else. I mean, it is someone else, but only for one rather than for two. No, one cup is for Peter Carey, the next cup is for someone else. And the second someone has to be someone strong. Because if both cups were meant for two individuals, then those two individuals have to be individuals that were friendly to him, and he wouldn't expect it would suddenly try to kill him. So I would still go with my theory that is only one killer here. It's just a killer that's very strong and very friendly to him. And it's more likely a company man or a crew member that he knew. Because let's say if there is a group of people, let's say 3 people, why would they leave and not cover this up? Oh, which means there was someone here, 2 someones, one that came to visit Peter Carey, the first person that drank with Peter Carey, which means that's the reason for the glass, the first visitor, and the second visitor is the one that did the killing, which is not the same as the first person. So the first person that visited walked on here. When they walked away, they walked on here. So they weren't concerned with covering anything up because they're not a suspect. So there are 3 people. 1 the wife, 1 the visitor that drank with Peter Carey, and the third is the murderer, the mystery person, hiding in the wind. Whether that person is 2 people or still one very strong person is up for debate. But I keep saying, if 2 people are a person, those 2 people would have to have been people Peter Carey knew. Which invalidates the first person doing the visiting. But it also invalidates them leaving and not removing the footprints, so there had to be more than one visit in that day. It's just very strange to me that the wife would not notice that there was a visitor that came to visit him more than once. Or if the visitor was someone that visited once, why would she keep that to herself? I still think she's associated with this somehow. I'm sure she went inside of the cabin and took the box, or she's aware of the box. She was very wary with regards to me asking about the box, as if she didn't want me to ask about the box.
Who could do such a thing? My poor husband.
I've yet to figure out what's her whole role with regards to removing the box and involvement with the associate. I believe she's associated with the footprint of the person here, but not the killer who did the killing. So, what else do I have to do? Okay, so now I have to organize an ambush.
Well, Mr. Holmes, what do you think?
I think that we are lucky,
And why is that?
because of last night's attempted break-in.
Oof, you've lost me.
It is very probable that whoever came here hoped to find the door open. They tried to force it with a knife blade, but they failed. What will they do? Why, return tonight, when they will be better prepared.
Aha! So what do you propose?
We shall remain on the outside, near the window, where we stand the best chance of catching sight of our visitor. Well, gentlemen, ready your pistols. We have a long night ahead of us.
They came here with a knife blade, they couldn't get it open. Okay. But it was broken. No. They came here with a knife blade, hoping the crime scene, the door would be closed. The second person, not the first, not the person that did the killing, the person that came back, which could be the same person that did the killing. But the person that came back was hoping after the police did their stuff, it would be open. And they tried to pickpocket it or lockpick it, but they couldn't get in, so they decided to give up. It couldn't be the wife, because if it was a wife, it could be after the police left, she tried to go over to his place to remove the chest in hopes that she would remove the chest, but the chest was already gone before she had the ability to remove it. Yes, that seemed more likely. But Holmes says with a knife. Now it can't be the same knife that was Peter Carey used to defend himself, because if it was the same knife Peter Carey used to defend himself after they killed him with the harpoon, then why would the knife still be present there? It don't make sense. So it can't be the same knife. The door was locked with both the harpoon and the knife and the notebook on the ground. So it can't be the same knife. So the knife had to be from, or if not a knife, scissors had to be from her. We'll see what's going on. I believe it is her, but I'll ask one more question. So there are three suspects here. The spotlight is on her, for sure. But it's more on our mystery person, more than anyone else. Because she doesn't have the force in order to kill him with a harpoon. Not without a ballista or something similar to it. So she's either in cahoots with someone, which is highly unlikely for this religious person to go through all that, or it is the person who's the more in the spotlight. But now there's a third person, because a killer wouldn't be as sloppy as to leave their footprint, unless they want the person's footprint who's left to be, held for the crime, suspected of committed the crime. Thus they have their little lapdog, or their scapegoat. Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if the person is still in the woods somewhere, or lives near. Holmes have a nice little telescope in his room. I'm not surprised if someone else has one. Well, I can't talk to her.
Who could do such a thing?
So I'll have to proceed and see if, I doubt it's her, because that's way too obvious based on her reactions. But since there is no gardener, because Peter Carey is highly unlikely to do the gardening, at first I believe he would, simply because he's retired. But now I think back on it, he wouldn't, because he's a proud fishing man. No, she's doing the gardening, or she hires someone to do the gardening. Which brings a fourth person into play now. Now that I think about it, if she hires someone to do the gardening, the fourth person is actually the third person. So let's say there's a fourth person, a gardener, but the fourth person is actually number 3. We'll see how this goes. But so far I have 3 people now involved. One that left their footprint, the wife, and the actual person that did the killing. I doubt it's 2 people who would kill him, because then those 2 people would have to be people he knew, and he wouldn't suspect to do any harm to him, and wouldn't be stupid enough to leave their footprint. So it's very probable it's one killer. Or one good setup. Yes, it's a good setup. or a very good killer. Very precise killer that doesn't have to use a lot of force, but understands the human anatomy very well enough to use precise puncture strokes. That will still make the person very smart in order to know how to use enough force. But I doubt it's what I think it is. Who knows, maybe what I think is actually truth. But we'll see how it
We
plays
need to
out.
find a good place for an ambush. Perhaps behind Carey's cabin, near the window.
Behind here, by the window.
This looks like the perfect hiding place.
I guess so. There's no way for them to jump over through the trees. They would have to come around and enter the house.
Shh. Did you hear that? There's someone there. I'm gonna collar him.
I'll be right behind you.
Police! Hold it right there. Mr. Holmes, come and see what we've caught in our net.
Mr. Holmes?
All right, my fine fellow. Who are you and what are you doing here?
You're detectives, I suppose. You imagine that I'm connected with the death of Captain Carey. I assure you I'm innocent.
Innocent? Then what are you doing in his cabin?
Shall I tell you? You came to retrieve what you had lost after killing Peter Carey, but we were here waiting for you.
What is your name?
John Hopley Nelligan, but I didn't...
Do you deny that you came here yesterday?
No, but yes, it's just that I couldn't...
I'm tired of this. Off we go to the yard. Tomorrow, I'll see that you're put in front of the judge.
What? But you can't! I'm not... It's a terrible mistake!
Enough. You can explain all of that to the judge. You're coming with me to the yard.
But...
In light of recent events, it seems evident that your coming here was unnecessary. All the same, I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Holmes.
You are welcome, Inspector, but please don't be too hard on our young fellow. I would like to question him tomorrow morning.
Okay, so it seems Holmes kind of screwed up here. Last time I checked, he says Peter Carey was probably using the knife to defend himself against the attacker. But then he stated Peter Carey was dressed in proper attire, means he knew his attacker. He didn't suspect that the person would try to attack him. But if he pulled up a knife trying to defend himself, as Holmes stated, there would have been a struggle, but yet there was none. But now here it says the sharp knife was found on the floor. The blade showed no signs of use. So it's like I said, the knife doesn't really belong to Black Peter. I said that in the first video, or the first time I saw him. It's probably more likely the knife of the person who's the killer or the suspect. And it turns out I was right about that too. There were three people. A person who did the killing, a person who showed up, and a person and the wife. And that's the reason why the killer left the footprints. Because it wasn't the footprints of the killer. It's probably the footprints of this kid. It's hard for me to believe this kid has bigger feet than Peter Carey, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Well, let's see, what was I wrong about? Well, the first thing I was wrong about is believing that it might be Peter Carey's boots. But then I wasn't completely wrong because I never actually said it was Peter Carey's boots. I said it could be Peter Carey's boots or the killer. So the only thing I could be wrong with regards to from the time I first played the game is that it's neither Peter Carey's boots nor the killer's boots. It's probably the kid's boots. But I'm yet to be wrong with that either, because Holmes has said nothing with regards to the person who got caught. And that's his boots, so I'll be very surprised if those footprints aren't from the kid either. Which I won't be surprised at all. Which will still put me in the clear as it being the killer's boots rather than this kid's boots. Man, I'm doing a better investigation than damn Sherlock Holmes. Making assumptions without any positive conclusions with regards to those assumptions. Like, he's the one that's saying Peter Carey used the knife to possibly defend himself. Now, where did he get that from? He just pull it out of the air, or pull it out of his ass? If there's no signs of struggle, like, how would you know that he was actually using it to defend himself? I don't know.
Mr. Holmes?
Good morning, Mr. Holmes. Can I help you?
Good morning, Constable. I would like to speak to the fellow who was arrested at Woodman's Lee last night.
Ah, the young man. He's waiting in the interrogation room. You can go straight through. His belongings are held in the evidence room.
Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
These are the suspect's belongings.
Yes, yes, these are the suspect's belongings. Checking my volume, checking my volume. Yeah, that sounds about right. Sometimes in the last video, I was talking way too loud. I'm like, what the hell? That's mad loud. Uh, Alright, so this is obviously a suspect's belonging. Ring. I don't remember there being a ring. Where he got the ring from? At what point in the game was there a ring? Unless the ring is on the suspect himself. The kid that walked into the room. Which has nothing to do with this or this. But like, shouldn't... Okay, so here's my thing. Shouldn't the whatever was at the crime scene should be in a separate place than was on the person? And if this was at the crime scene, how come I didn't see any ring anywhere at the crime scene? I checked that room like several times. I checked the damn ground and the garden like several times. Where did this ring come from? And where's the handkerchief? There was no handkerchief in that in the cabin or a ring. So these are all things that the suspect, the kid, has on him. He had this pocket knife, he has a handkerchief, and he has a ring. So is the game telling me that this notebook that fell on the ground is actually the notebook of the kid? So the visitor that came in to see Peter Carey before, that a drink was made for him, or not for the kid, but the kid came with this book, this notebook from the company he works for, which I always thought it was the company, not the person himself, because he's rather young and it doesn't really make sense for him to have an engraved notebook of himself. So he's logging things down within this notebook in association to probably the whaling job that Peter Carey did, or information with regards to what Peter Carey is doing right now in his life that he's logging down, or various other people he worked for who have also initials, and Peter Carey is one of those people with initials, so that would make sense. But why would he drop it in the pool of blood unless okay, so it's a bit more complicated than I thought. First time he dropped it, let's say this is his book. The first time he's dropped it is when he came to see Peter Carey, but Peter Carey was already stabbed. So the person who, which is more than likely the footprints belong to the kid, because, you know, unlike the murderer, he would be careless enough to walk on the grass or the soil instead of the tiles. So when he came there, he saw the person getting ganked, and that person got gacked or ganked, depending on how you want to say it. He saw Peter Carey getting ganked, or maybe he didn't see him getting ganked. Maybe he came directly afterwards. The second person after the killer. Oh, so it now makes a little bit more sense. So there was one visit, a visit from the killer, and there's a second visit, the visit from the not killer. It would make more sense for the killer to show up thereafter than the kid to show up first, because then he could blame it all on the kid. But if the kid showed up first, no, if the kid showed up last, either way, yeah, you know what, let me turn down my volume a little. Either way, it works to the killer's advantage. If the killer had no idea that the kid was going to show up after him, the blame still falls on the kid himself for leaving his footprints there. But it would be more convenient if the killer knew that the kid would show up before him. So if the kid did show up, after the killer, then that means the kid will represent something that's beneficial to me. He would help me capture the killer. Very good. Very interesting. Which means if he showed up thereafter and he saw Peter Carey dead, killed, he left out of a panic and he forgot to take his notebook. That's the reason why he came back. Because he wanted to take his notebook. Otherwise he'd be caught and persecuted as the killer. Because eventually they'll find out. And he is probably told by someone to come back and get it. Otherwise he'll be caught and persecuted as the killer. Very interesting. I wonder who told him to come back. It couldn't be him. Out of a panic, he wouldn't come back by himself, knowing full well that he made a mistake the first time. No, no, no. You see something, you drop your stuff. You went home, you realize it's completely there. Then you finally realize your property's there. They're screwed. So if you're going to come back secretly to grab it, you're in hopes that no one will be there. It's rather naive. So let's say this kid is stupid and no one's forcing him to come back. And he's naive, but he will help me to catch the killer. So let's put things together. He showed up there before. Maybe not the same day of the killer, but many days. Many days he probably came to Peter Carey's place in order to log things, account with regards to his past and what he's currently doing, his insurance, so on and so forth, or billing logs, or something Peter Carey might owe for the person who's actually the real killer. Yes. Many things can be gathered from this log itself. I don't need a ring or this or this. This is telling me everything I need to know. I'm putting it all together in my head.
The notebook that we found on Peter Carey's cabin floor.
Let me see if what Holmes is going to say about it. Maybe he's going to say it's insurance, claims number, whaling numbers, individuals associated with the job of his business. So the fourth person theory is now in effect. Number 4 is 3. But number 4 is very light. There's no spotlight on 4. 4 represents the company itself. That's what 4 will represent. The killer is the 3rd. The 4th is the company. Once the spotlight goes on to the 4th, it will be that the 3rd is the 4th. We'll see.
These abbreviations mean something, but what?
It'll be very stupid if those initials on that notebook is actually that kid's notebook abbreviation. Like, who walks around with their own engraving in a notebook that's well engraved? Only someone that's of significant importance, that's part of a significantly important organization or rich family. Yes, it's all coming together.
These abbreviations mean something, but what?
Don't worry, Holmes. I'll figure certain things out for you before you do. But that's the whole point of the game, for you to figure it out before Holmes does. And it's strange. Actually, it's not strange at all. It's strange that Holmes says that knife wasn't used at all. Or at least the game says the knife wasn't used. But Holmes assumed that Peter Carey used it to defend himself. It's kind of hilarious. Let's see what this ring is about. If this was taken off of our suspect, if these things were found on our suspect, I mean, it is a theory to believe that this is the kid's notebook, unless the kids literally told the police that it's his notebook. So I'm going to go with that. That he told them it's his notebook. Spinning around. Let's look at the engravings.
To my friend and partner, 1883.
Mm-hmm.
From R. Dawson. Dawson. I've seen this name before. Perhaps my archive holds the answer. These abbreviations mean something.
How about you
But
close the
what?
notebook?
These abbreviations.
All right, I'll find it within the archive. Nope, it's open, so I can't see the initials on the notebook again. My friend Dawson. So here's the thing: Dawson is not the kid, obviously, because he couldn't have known Peter Carey from 1883. So the kid has a ring of Dawson on his person, probably wearing it. Well, why would he wearing to my friend? Why would he be wearing someone else's ring, unless he's a thief? I mean, it makes sense that he's a thief, but it seems too easy for him to be a thief. And he has to be the person that had this ring, because at no point in that crime scene, in that cabin, other than that freaking notebook and that knife and that harpoon, and of course the missing case, and all the other stuff that were present in the room, such as the glass and unicorn, sea unicorn engraving, the maps. But there were no rings present in there, so these have to have come off that kid. But why would he have a ring of someone who's clearly much older than him on his person? RW to my friend and partner. Well, let's say the kid is related to Dawson, and they're craving. The kid is an associate, personal associate of Dawson's, doing his work for him. We'll continue from this. What the hell? Why are there 2 pages for this? It's only giving me one thing, a dialogue and search archives. It's saying the same thing on page 1 and page 2, so I haven't given any points towards the game yet. I wanted to jump into the game to see where I'm standing with regards to the investigation so far. But from this point, I believe it's best that I start to give points to the game. So from where I'm standing, I would say the game is at a 6 right now. But not even. I would say it's a 5.8. Now that I think about it. 2 points away from a 6. Why I say that? Because I've logged everything in my head and everything I've seen, and based on game design as well. It's not just the story, it's not just the characters, it's not just the artwork, it's not just the coding, the game design itself, the coding. It's not just the script and the story itself. It's everything all at once. So from where I'm standing, it's 5.8. I took 2 points away, or should I say, I took 2 points away before with regards to certain things not making sense, such as investigations and what Holmes, his conclusions to certain things not making sense. His deductions were rather rash, but I believe I gave a point back for the logic of we're not in the times where you could do forensics type to that level yet. But the two main points I took away why it's not at a 6 is with regards to this. I've seen this before. Well, I haven't really seen it before, but I thought I saw it before in the last video. But it is something. It is something. It is present. There's apparently when you're in certain instance, you could go from page 1 to page 2, and you have the same dialogue on the page. Now, I could say that's coincidence or it means something, but there's nothing physically there to change the text. So that's either a bug or it's a glitch or there's something else that's I'm missing. But I take a point off from that. The next point I took a point off with regards to is bumping into things that you shouldn't be bumping into. Like I'm walking through the garden and I should be able to walk over the garden field. Like if there's vegetables and stuff, let's say if they're ropes or maybe if they're vines or things that limit your movement with regards to certain objects, then that makes sense. But if I'm bumping into things that are clearly there because a game wall has been set, so you're not allowed to go past that set area, then that's bad because it's not like he can't lift his leg and walk over it. It makes no sense. Same as when crawling, I guess you could say crawling or climbing. Those things aren't present in this game because they're not needed. But bumping into things that and him stopping abruptly isn't exactly good. It should be more fluid. Or maybe I'm looking too much into that and there's not really two things to deduct from, but it really is. It really is. It's Holmes' way of deducing things. Some things are missing and don't make sense. And also this. There's a clear bug. So there's actually two things I took away from the game. So that's why I'm at a 5.8. But it's technically a third, such as bumping into things I shouldn't be bumping into. But I think that's just my personal prejudice. So for right now, I'm at a 5.8. I like the design of the world. I like the color. I like the use. I like how things are set and how things are archived. I like Holmes' way of deducing things based on what he sees and what he's answered, though he's kind of make mistakes sometimes. I like the world design. I like the atmosphere. I like the music, background music too. When you're deducing things, I like the idea that you could use perspective shots through the left and right eye. One for creativity and one for looking at things that you might have missed using your own visual acuity, peripheral vision. And I like that there's set goals, documents, and other stuff. So many of the stuff is located within the archive. I could take points away for the map, but I'm not going to do so. So there are many documents that within each page I guess would make sense, but they seem very plain. But then this isn't overly complicated with regards to the design of each set piece, especially when it comes to documentations. The complication lies within deduction, not within each page. Plus there's the loading of pages, the time it takes for a page to load, and the color uses for text, the size of text. All these things have been identified. That's why I'm at a 5.8. so far. Yes, I believe 5.8 is where I should be so far. I'm trying to think. Maybe I'm missing something. The intro cutscenes. Okay, let me log it myself. Cutscenes, check. Holmes attire, check. Inventory manual, check. The design of the world, check. The feel of the world, check. The map, not so great. I could take a point off from that. I should take a point off from that. I will take a point off for that, 5.7. Alright, so technically I'm at a 6.1. So now that I think of everything that I just thought in my head, from homes, from place, objects, from patterns, such as locations, present objects, from the design of the world, the lighting, the shadows, everything else present in the game, deductions, perceptions, use of eyes, coding to get from pages to pages, artwork done on individual artworks, such as this, objects such as what's present here,
These are the suspect's belongings.
the 3D models. These are all 3D models and designs. Drop shadows and all that stuff is counted. Coding to get to from page to page to page, or for icons with regards to exit, move, so on and so forth. Those things present in there. Holmes attire, characters in the game present, design characters in the game, the world itself, the map, all those things got to like 6.1, 6.2 territory. So that's where I am right now. Everything's at 6.2. A simple thing like just creating a knife is one thing, but making the life illuminate with light and having it have a drop shadow, that's another thing. So you have to look at all those things as well. So that's where I am right now. I'm a 6.2 with regards to the overall game. So I'm gonna take a slight little break. I'll probably run to the restroom, come back, and then get on this because I have to use the restroom. Alright. So this might be a bit difficult. Eating while I'm trying to deduce this. And eat for the entire day, so. Which isn't a good thing. If you're trying to keep yourself in good health, you have to eat 3 meals a day. And if you're trying to be a fitness person, you have to have a